I'm Jason Glass. I'm proud to be Kentucky's Commissioner of Education and Chief Learner, and welcome to the inaugural convening of the Kentucky United We Learn Council. Kentucky United We Learn is our state's vision and aspiration for the future of education in the state, and it's based on what Kentuckians told us they wanted for the future of our schools when we took the time to listen. For those of you who may not be familiar, United We Learn had quite an extensive set of recommendations, but we distilled them down to three big ideas. The first of those was that we needed to bring about deeper, more authentic, real, connected learning experiences for our students. The kinds of experiences that we know our students will need when they leave our schools for work and life and being citizens and being successful human beings. So that's the first big idea. The second big idea was that we needed to bring around innovation for our schools, particularly in the areas of assessment and accountability. But there was this real sense of doing something at scale and going big, and a sense that our system of tests and measurements and how we rate and evaluate schools sometimes could be a barrier to the kinds of deeper learning that Kentuckians told us they wanted to see. And then the last big idea that Kentuckians told us they wanted was that they really liked being involved and being heard. And they wanted us to continue that. So there was a real spirit of continued collaboration and co-creation and work within communities and work with people in communities from all across the state. The writers of United We Learn were people from all parts of Kentucky. They represented all sorts of different viewpoints and perspectives, and that was by design. We wanted to make sure that we heard from all of Kentucky and that we particularly heard from voices and perspectives that hadn't always been at the table when education policy decisions were made. One additional focus that was in United We Learn was around equity, and it is just woven into everything that they wrote about. And what they really were trying to say is that we know that we have families and students who don't always have everything that they need to fully engage in an educational experience and to be successful. And we need to take efforts as a state to make sure that we're meeting every family and every child and make sure that they have what they need to engage in a rich and meaningful educational experience. This council is an extension of one of those three big ideas in United We Learn, and that is that notion of collaboration and co-creation. And you represent a really novel and exciting way for a state agency to engage with its state and to make sure that we're receiving regular information, feedback, direction, advice on what are the things that we need to be doing as a state agency, what are the things that I need to be doing as Commissioner of Education, what are the things that the State Board of Education needs to be focused on to make sure that we are providing all the supports that we can for our students, for our families, for our teachers, for the people working in our schools to deliver on those big ideas that are put forth in United We Learn. So you're sort of a sensing network for us across the state so that we've got a neural network, a connection across Kentucky where we can hear about how things are going and what are the things that we need to be working on. Because United We Learn is going to change and evolve, and we're going to run into challenges and opportunities that we didn't expect, and things are going to come up that we will need to adjust to. So you will help us keep that pulse on the state of Kentucky and advise us on what changes that we need to make going forward. The three big ideas that I talked about earlier, deeper and meaningful learning, innovation, particularly around assessments and accountability, and that notion of collaboration and co-creation, those will be woven into the things that you will hear about today and the work that you will do today, and we'll keep coming back to them. So it's sort of a starting point for us to engage in this work, but we really don't know where all this is going to go, and that's exciting. So it's going to be about exploration, and that's fun, and that's going to be something that we're going to do together. And in the spirit of exploration, I want to introduce to you my friend and colleague, Lu Young. Dr. Lu Young is a Kentuckian. She is a former teacher. She's a former superintendent. She's currently the director of the UK Next Gen Leadership Program, and she's my boss. She's the chair of the State Board of Education. And she's going to talk a little bit about that spirit of exploration and innovation. Lu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Glass. I always tell him he's the coolest guy in the room. He does all of his introductions and welcomes without a single note. That's not the case for me. So I want to do a good school teacher thing and first kind of prime you for the listening experience while I share some opening remarks with you. So if you will, there's a notes section at the back. If you will, just see if my analogy holds up. How can I make this connection between Kentucky United We Learn and a moonshot? And that's what I'm going to be thinking about here for the next few minutes. And so I'll just ask you to kind of capture some of those notes. Did I make that connection? Can this analogy hold up as we move forward? In 1961, President John F. Kennedy challenged the U.S. to be the first nation to land a man on the moon, to return him safely to Earth, and to do so before the end of the decade. Often referred to as the moonshot, President Kennedy's efforts resulted in the greatest mobilization of resources and manpower in our nation's history. A mere 8 years later, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon. Thanks to the president's big vision, dedication of resources, and unfailing confidence in the ingenuity of the American people, the moonshot stunned the world and boosted America's stature at home and around the globe. Fast forward 50 years to this November 2022, with the launch of Artemis I, the first in a series of increasingly complex missions to build a long-term presence in the moon, on the moon for decades to come, igniting the hope and passion in a whole new generation for space exploration, and kindling renewed interest in modern-day moonshots. Artemis, aptly named after the mythological twin sister of Apollo, aims to send 4 astronauts around the moon on its next flight in 2024 and land humans there as early as 2025. If you were able to see the video we shared prior to the start today, you saw Kentucky's own Alora Mazarakis, a 2014 public school graduate of Martha Lane Collins High School, Elaine, right in Shelby County. I'm delighted to be able to share that Alora had a lifelong dream to be an engineer, and she served on Artemis's launch team. So why all this moon talk this morning? As I said, I'm trying to build this case that United We Learn can be our very own moonshot. The term was originally used with the Apollo 11 lunar mission, but is now commonly used to describe a lofty goal or a monumental feat. Whether it's the Human Genome Project, Google's quantum supremacy, driverless cars, or America's new cancer moonshot, with the life-changing goal of reducing cancer death rate by half within 25 years, a moonshot refers to, quote, a new project that could have outstanding results after one intense, consistent effort, a giant leap, a colossal feat. In all of these scenarios, moonshot thinking is critical from vision to ideation to implementation. So let that settle in, moonshot thinking. Tech leaders describe moonshot thinking as a strategic approach to, quote, tackle a huge, seemingly insurmountable problem and proposing a radical solution to that problem using disruptive technology. The idea is not to look for small incremental improvements, but to aim for a huge improvement, or even better, to solve the problem entirely. Applying moonshot thinking to complex challenges empowers people to look for unconventional solutions with a high probability of success. Enables teams to use fast-paced experimentation to continuously learn and improve. Assumes that everything is possible, looking beyond established ways of thinking and doing, and removes the fear of failure and helps teams focus on success. So as I noted, in a very real sense, I believe that Kentucky's United We Learn initiative is our own moonshot. Over the course of the past 2 years, Commissioner Glass and his team, in partnership with the Kentucky Board of Education, have encouraged everyone engaged in the process to let go of traditional ways of thinking and instead embrace unconventional solutions to reimagine teaching, learning, assessment, accountability, and community engagement across the state, assuming once again that everything is possible. To energize the learner experience and improve learner outcomes for every child and youth in Kentucky. Several examples of moonshot thinking that paved the way to the launch of Kentucky's United We Learn Council today have begun taking root, starting with the commissioner's listening tour that he mentioned. The preliminary work of the Coalition for Advancing Education. Some of you represent that original thinking that led to today. The engagement of many districts and other early adopters in local experimentation and design. The launch of a statewide project-based learning initiative. The state board's adoption of a portrait of a learner that you'll learn more about today. And efforts to bring deeper, more personalized learning theory and practice to schools and classrooms all across the Commonwealth. And we're just getting started. This week's United We Learn Council convening is a celebration of yet another milestone on the United We Learn moonshot journey. It is important to plant a flag today, acknowledging our milestones, because Apollo 11 and any moonshot launch represents a series of well-executed interim successes that must occur over time before the final mission is accomplished. Long before the words, "Houston, the Eagle has landed," are ever uttered, stakeholders in lots of different places have been busy tackling problems, seeking unconventional solutions, designing, prototyping, failing, and succeeding all along the way. Moonshots don't just happen, and that's why we need you and partners like you to join our mission and take these giant steps with us. In keeping with the lofty goals of President Kennedy's moonshot and those of every space mission since, Kentucky's United We Learn vision aims to improve the human experience in bold new ways. We have set our sights on meeting the full spectrum of needs of every learner in every school in the Commonwealth, raising achievement for all learners and closing gaps among student groups while intentionally engaging communities in fulfilling the unlimited promise of public schools in their own backyards. I am confident that with your help, we can reach and exceed that goal. So this morning, let us echo the words of President Kennedy 1 year later in 1962. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do these other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win. It all begins with one small step. Let's take that step together. Thank you for your willingness to learn, innovate, and lead as we cast Kentucky's moonshot. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. And kudos to Lou and to the communications team for pulling together all those amazing images from the Webb telescope too. I'm reminded of Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, I don't know why people make things up or rely on superstition when if you just take the time to really observe the universe and the world, it's amazing on its own. There's just so much magic to it all by itself. You don't need any of that. So hopefully you're inspired after hearing from Lou and have got this sort of moonshot mentality to this work because it's going to be about exploration. We want to start building the relationships and connections here in the room, and we're going to do that with introductions. We have a big room. But I will ask all of the council members who are wearing the green lanyards to do a couple of things. One, introduce yourself and where you're from. Second, tell us the perspective or role that you bring into this room. And third, what is one word or one aspiration or hope that you have for this work? So I'll ask that everyone do their very best to be brief. Again, we are a big room. So the three things are, again, is what's your name and community you're from, what perspectives or lenses do you bring to this work, and then finally, what's one word or aspiration. So I'll pass this mic around. Hopefully it will work everywhere in the room, and we've got Megan here who can help us there if it doesn't. So we'll start over here with Darlene.
So I'm Darlene Barnes, and I am from Jessamine County. I teach Spanish there, and I'm also a parent of 3 children attending public school in Jessamine County. This one right here is one of them. And let's see, my perspective. So I did name perspective and unity.
Hello, I'm Raider Barnes, as my mom here said. Yeah, I'm her son. And I'm from Jessamine County. I'm a student, obviously. And expectation or hope. Guess we'll say progression.
Hi, I'm Nisha Arjana and I'm a student from Phi County, and one word for an expectation is innovation.
Hi, my name is Alfonso de Torres Núñez. I'm a Spanish teacher in Bloom Elementary and Jefferson County Public School. I am a teacher, but I'm also a parent. I'm also an educator. I'm also a community member. And as every educator around here, I'm the first learner among learners. My expectation, learning together.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Sintra. I'm a teacher at Madison Central High School in Madison County. I'm the president of our Madison County Education Association, been teaching for 19 years, and I have 4 kids. This is not one of my biological children, but I was at the hospital when she was born. So I'll hand it to her next. But my word is probably, I got 2, equity and creativity. Sorry, had to get 2.
Hi, my name is Rose Snell. I go to Madison Central High School, and my expectation is to help my school and my community any way I can.
Morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Campbell. I'm a middle and high school music teacher from Knox County, currently on release serving as president of the Kentucky Education Association. I am an educator of 27 years and enjoyed that opportunity to create with kids every day as a music teacher. And I guess my one expectation or hope for this group is keeping the promise of public schools.
The Greens.
Good morning. My name is Rashawn West. I'm a parent and SBDO member in the Fayette County School District. My expectation and hope for this group is morality.
Good morning. I'm Edna Shack. I'm from Moorhead, Round County in Eastern Kentucky. I taught teachers for 35 years and I'm now retired and keeping myself busy. I come not just as a teacher of teachers, but as a mother of 4 children who went through school during the testing era. Might I say that? And I also am a community member and recently elected to the city council, so I also come as a community representative. Thank you. Oh, curiosity.
Hi, I'm Heather Dunn. I'm a social studies teacher at Kenton County School District. I'm a Go Teach ambassador and I'm national board certified. I'm a parent. I've got one at UK, one in high school. So I wear a lot of different hats at any given time. I would say that my expectation or hope would be growth.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann DeMott. I recently retired this past May after 31 years in public education as a teacher for 20 years and an administrator for the remaining 11 of those. Did not have a clue what I was going to do with myself. So in June, I landed at Georgetown College as an administrative assistant to the dean. And Thursday, I will begin a new position there, which I'm very excited about, as their director of data quality assessment and accreditation, and I am currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Kentucky. And after all of these years, I hope retirement will let me finish. Change, if I have to use one word.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle Chappelle. I teach at the Henderson Community College. I've been with KCTCS for 15 years. I am a parent of 2 adult kids who are college graduates. I am an educator. I'm also a community leader. And my expectation and hope for this group is close the achievement gap. Green. I'm looking for green.
Hello, I'm Hannah Edlin. I am a former middle school teacher and the current reigning Miss Kentucky and a recent school board elect member. My expectation or hope for this group is that we serve as champions for all kids in Kentucky.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carrie Markham. I'm a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst with Surpass Behavioral Health. We serve children on the autism spectrum, and I've had the pleasure of working with people of varying abilities over the past 10 years. And I'm going to say community member and mostly, but I also have the pleasure of going into schools with a lot of our kids. And my expectation and hope is also 2 words, which is community and inclusion.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Hatton. I am the Director of Secondary Instruction for Adair County Schools. I've been a teacher of everything from kindergarten to 8th grade and a school administrator, and am now loving the work that I'm doing with Adair County. I am also a parent of 4 children, one of whom is deaf and special education. And so I'm primarily interested in joining this council to continue the work and the equity work that the state is promising across the district and across the state. And my expectation is both momentum and inspiration for the deeper learning that we've started this year in Adair County.
Good morning. I'm Lonnie Nixon, a student at the University of the Cumberland, a doctoral student. I work for Berea Community Schools with the School Climate Transformation Team. And just really the elementary perspective, I've always worked in the elementary, but really what comes to my mind is brain sweat. And that means when the kids are in the classroom, are their brains sweating? Are they thinking critically all the time?
Good morning. My name's Jim Flynn. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents. I've been a teacher, I've been an assistant principal, I've been a principal, and I was the superintendent in Kentucky for 16 years. And now I'm in my 4th year of supporting our superintendents. And One of my primary interests in this work is, what's the leadership needed to co-create an ecosystem for deeper learning in Kentucky, and really thinking about how we support our superintendents to lead that kind of work from their role in this process. And as I kind of think about a focus for us, I'll just say we always need to keep kids first in every decision.
Hi, everybody. My name's Trevor Smith. I'm a high school senior, and I have an aspiration to be an educator one day. I guess I would say a hope for this group for me would be to instill a passion of change for communities and for our schools.
Hello, hello. I'm Susan Dougal. I am from Shelby County, retired educator, recently retired. I am the mother of 4 teachers, so excited about that. My work continues through them and through UK Next Gen. I'm working with Lou there, so excited about that. And the word that I would bring to the group is joy.
Hi, I am Jenny Hobson from Partners for Rural Impact, formerly Partners for Education at Berea College. I'm an educator and a social worker, and right now I have the great joy of working with schools and principals in Appalachia, Kentucky, as they work on their family-friendly school certification, and it's exciting to see people here from districts where you've just certified schools. I'm also a parent of a college student and a high school student at Berea Independent, and in that role, I serve as the community lead on Berea's L3. So my word for today is hope.
Good morning, Elaine Ferris, and I currently live in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I have diverse experience as an elementary teacher, elementary principal, high school principal, superintendent, worked here at KDE for many years, and I am excited to join this group. And my hope for this group is that we think about all kids.
Good morning. I'm Julie Pyle. I'm a parent and community member in Boone County, Kentucky. I run an organization called Parent Camp, which is all around family, school, community engagement. And I also have a side business, Stinger Media, which allows me to do the Parent Camp work. And my word would be conversion, that we convert our hopes and dreams into reality for our kids.
Good morning. I'm Betty Edwards. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I am currently an educational consultant with Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools out of Washington, D.C., working on issues of social inclusion in schools. But 30 years ago, I was the director of curriculum assessment for Kentucky as we went through our nationally renowned program on looking at performance-based assessments, performance learning, demonstrations of learning, and all that. Then I left Kentucky and worked in several different areas in education around the country. And now that I've moved back home, the education in Kentucky is very dear to me, so I was delighted to apply and to work with this great group of people in this important endeavor. And I believe my word is engagement.
Hello, my name is Becky Burgett, and I am a board member from Gallatin County, Kentucky, in Northern Kentucky. So I've been on the board for a little more than 25 years. So I've seen a lot of programs come and go, a lot of initiatives come and go. And I'm really excited to be a part of this group. And my 3 words would be sense of urgency, because our kids need us now to help them get a richer education to prepare them for their future. So sense of urgency.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Azure D. Garland, represent Department of Juvenile Justice. We have about 1,000 of your children. And I am with the education branch. I oversee education in all of our detentions, group homes, and then serve as the signer-offer of the folks that pay your counselors in our day treatment programs. I am an author, an educator, a mentor, an all-around doer of things. And my goal for this year is education over funerals.
My name is Corinne Scheiding. I am a school counselor at Williamstown Independent Schools. I am currently serving in the elementary, but I've served all students. I was the junior senior high counselor before, and so I serve all students. So I have experience with all. And then I think my word for this year would just be energizing. I'm excited.
Hello, my name's Amy Harris. I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Williamstown Independent Schools in Williamstown, Kentucky. I'm an educator, obviously, but I'm also a parent, grandparent, community member, and my word is opportunity.
Hi, good morning. My name is Cassie House. I'm the principal at Peaksville Elementary here in Franklin County. I am an educator. I'm a parent of two children, one who is in high school and then one who's a middle schooler. So I'm very interested in the work that we're doing and want to, echo lots of things that you all have said, but revolutionary is my word because we have been through a rough couple of years and we're primed for change. And as Becky said, our kids need it now.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Chris Williams. I serve as Chancellor, which is essentially Provost of the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. Your 16 colleges partnering with you all in dual credit, career and technical education, pathways, community engagement all across the state. So I'm happy to be here representing KCTCS with my colleague, Dr. Chappell. I am a survivor of being a substitute teacher. So that was my foray into K-12 outside of being a K-12 student. I did live to tell the tale. I probably will never do it again. And that's because I really wasn't prepared to be a substitute teacher. So I'm really glad that hopefully you all will bring that teacher eye to this process, not just the student perspective, but also you have a lot of people teaching who maybe weren't prepared to be teachers, just as we often do and have to prepare our folks to be teachers. You all have said many of my words, but I'm going to add one more, that I hope this council helps Kentuckians, all Kentuckians, understand the value of both secondary and post-secondary education. Because you can be a plumber through post-secondary education, you can be a doctor through post-secondary education, and we need all of those. So thank you. I'm going to hand it back to this table. I don't think you all got it.
All right, you all too. Good morning. Penny Christian, lots of hats. I come as a parent. I have 4 girls, 3 of whom have already gone through Fayette County Public Schools. I have one who's a senior. I have one who is a teacher in Bardstown. She is a speech coach and she is the choral director for the music for the high school and middle school. I have one who is in JCPS, who just got her doctorate from Bellarmine. She deals with a lot of kids in DJJ and she loves that work. And I have one who is a public defender. All 3 of those girls are doing service, which means they make no money. That said, bless their hearts. That said, I don't have one word. I have 2 words that lead into a hope, and that's clarity and discernment. The clarity and discernment for this work is necessary for everyone in this room to understand that if you do not raise expectations for every single baby, they're not going to get where they need to be and deserve to be.
Hello, I am Brandy Howard. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at Bullitt County Public Schools. I have been a teacher, instructional coach, and principal. My hope for this group is that through our work, our students are able to have quality learning experiences that prepare them for whatever future that they choose. And my one word is transform.
Hi, I'm Rachel Albright. I am a former middle and high school English teacher. I currently have the privilege of serving the Ohio Valley region as a deeper learning design specialist for our co-op there. And my hope for this work, especially as I have a child who's about to enter public schools, is I want the work we do here to be life-giving, that I want our schools to be places where students want to be and the educators want to be so that we can sustain and thrive in this profession and our kids can too.
Hello, my name is Bentley White. I'm a junior at the Kentucky School for the Deaf and a member of the Commissioner's Student Advisory Council. I have 4 words of expectations or hopes for this group. That is creative, inclusive, equitable collaboration with all of us.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Farmer, and I am from Danville, Kentucky. I am an early childhood educator, spent time in preschool, kindergarten, and special ed and math intervention, and I'm currently the principal of an early childhood school in Danville. I'm also a parent, so I represent that as well of public school children, one who is now studying to be a teacher. And my word is the same as Brandy's, is transformation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Raima Dutt. I'm a high school junior from Jefferson County, and I'm a student, and I also work very closely with the Kentucky Student Voice team. And I would say my hope for this group is sustainability.
Good morning. My name is Justin Dunning, and I go to Lyon County High School as a student, and I'm also on the Commissioner Student Advisory Council. And my hope for this group would be to make a difference, because I have a sister in 3rd grade, and I'd like to see her have a different high school experience.
My name is Wallace Caleb Bates, and I always get a few chuckles when I say that I live at Shoulder Blade, Kentucky, so in Breathitt County, and I represent a few different groups here today. I'm currently studying communications at Eastern Kentucky University. I'm also very fortunate to be part of our communications team here at KDE, and my number one hope for this group centers around community collaboration as one of the key pillars of the United We Learn vision. I hope that we're able to communicate, obviously, and collaborate as communities around innovation and vibrant learning experiences. I'm very thankful to see all of you here after having met many of you on Zoom and other virtual meeting platforms these past couple of years. And I'll pass to
Good morning. My name is Kathy Stovall, and I looked at this and I'm like, I represent all of these. I once was a student, and as a student, as an adult now, I remember what it was like to be a student. I once was a business leader. At age 15, I started my own sewing business. So those potentials were always there. Then I became an educator. I've always been a community member. And so these are the things that really strike me as what we need to do for our students, is to give them all these opportunities. So when I think about what's possible, I always tell students possibility. There's so much potential and possibility out there for you. But even more important, one of the things that I like to share is this is one thing I personally don't believe we can eradicate poverty, but I do believe that we can eradicate illiteracy. And so mine is, there's no excuse. We've got to get rid of illiteracy. We're one of the freest nations in the world with so many possibilities, and we need to start using them in education.
Good morning. My name is April Mullins-Datko, and I wear a few hats. I'm an Associate Head Start Director for Community Action Council, and we serve about 2,000 children experiencing low income in 17 counties in Kentucky. I am also a mother of 2 first graders at Berea Independent, and I have worked on the L3 group there as well. And so my hope for this group is really all about families and access. I have a child in special ed. And if I had not had you shouldn't need a master's in special education to be able to go through that process with your child. And so my word is access. We say a lot about we need families, but how friendly are we to families? How welcoming are we to families? And that's really what I'm here to advocate for.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Renee Scott, and I work for the Kentucky Department of Education. I live here in Frankfort. I work with the Kentucky Educator Placement Service. And before I came to the department, I received my master's in business administration at Clark Atlanta University, and then my law degree from North Carolina Central School of Law. And the work here has enabled me to use all of my educational experiences. My expectation and hope for the group, in addition to access, is accessibility. Not only of our buildings for our children with disabilities, but also accessibility of opportunity for all children.
Good morning. I'm Audrey Gilbert. I'm a senior at Frankfurt High School, and that's the hat I'm wearing today, although I do wear some other hats. I also work with the Kentucky Student Voice team in assessment and accountability and school climate. And I think today I'm looking at intentional co-creation, because you can have co-creation, but being intentional is the effort that you need to put forward. And that's what I hope we all do today.
Hi, my name is Julie Monarch. I am from Cloverport Independent School District. That is in Breckenridge County. We are very small. Whenever I look at this and I think of perspective, my first perspective, and I wear many hats, my first perspective is I am a first generation college student for my family. So I start there and I see a lot of the families in my community, and I see a lot of the deer in the headlight looks that I get from parents when I start working with them. And I'm like, I hear you. I see you. I was there. My parents were there. So I kind of look at it that way and get a really good parent perspective. I am an educator. I am a P12 special ed teacher, and believe it or not, I am in between first grade and 12th grade classes every day, step foot in all of those. So really just feel the struggle of just about everyone in this room. A community member and also a small business owner. So we own a few small businesses. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Travis Hamby. I am a parent, but an educator as well. It's my 27th year, 13th as a school superintendent. In 2013, I began leading this work in my district. And so my hope for this group is that we would be an accelerant for spreading deeper personalized learning.
Good morning. I am Cheryl McAdams, and I'm at Davis County Public Schools, where I'm a district literacy intervention coach, as well as my partner in crime. We are the leads for our Family Friendly School Network as well. So Family Friendly Schools is a passion of mine just from the literacy hat. I'm a parent. I have a daughter at Murray studying education, even though there are lots of teachers in our community that tell her that's not the right choice. And I have a son who's at the Engineering Academy at Apollo who wants to go to Murray to be an engineer. My word is confidence. I want to restore confidence in our students that they're getting the education they deserve. I want to restore confidence in our teachers that they have the tools, the resources necessary to make those changes, and then confidence for our parents that they have the tools and the desire to continue their passions for their children.
Hello, I'm Shelley Hammonds. I'm also with Davis County Public Schools. I'm our federal programs coordinator, and I come with the perspective of an educator and a family member. But part of my work is also with our Title I and migrant. So I really want to focus on those maybe underrepresented individuals in our communities. That is a growing population. And my word is going to be hopeful. I'm hopeful for this work, and I'm hopeful for our future of our education and our Commonwealth.
Hello, I'm Dr. Whitney Stevenson. I come as an educator. I'm the Director of Early Childhood for Fayette County Public Schools. And my expectation or hope for this group is student family centered.
Good morning, Jerry Cooper. I currently work for a nonprofit, Cognia, school improvement organization, but I'm a lifelong educator and learner. Was a classroom teacher, guidance counselor, and principal for many years. And as we think about providing equitable opportunities for all students across the state, the one word that I would use is relentless, because we need to be relentless in this work in order to get it done. We don't have time to waste, and relentlessness will help us get there faster.
Hi, I'm Ernestine Weems. Everybody calls me Ernie. I'm from Southeast Kentucky. I actually know where Shoulder Blade is. I live in Jackson, Kentucky. I'm the Director of Youth Services for Eastern Kentucky Concentrated Employment Program, known as EKCEP. I serve as the Director of Youth Services, the disengaged youth, ages 16 to 24. So I'm very passionate about that next step, getting them in the right track for education and for the workforce, to allow them to lead happy and healthy lives. I am a parent of 4 grown sons who have already went that pathway to try to figure out their career paths, their education paths. They're over the age of 36, so I'm going to tell my age here. But so I'm very passionate about that. Workforce development. My word was first opportunity. Others have used that. I have so many words. My word is empowering. I really am passionate about the collaboration of a no wrong door approach for education into workforce development.
Good morning. My name is Mike Hesketh. I'm a business owner from Shelby County, Kentucky. My perspective is, as a business owner and member of the community, I also serve on the Workforce Development Board for the region around Louisville. My journey started with the Workforce Board's approach, and we quickly found that it is success of our schools and what you all are involved in that is going to make the difference in our workforce challenges of the future. Inspired by Dr. Young's reference to a moonshot, my word is perseverance. It's hard, and we need to persevere.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tracy Hulsman, and I'm from Shelby County. I have been a secondary teacher for a long time, and I'm the curriculum instruction assessment coordinator for Shelby County now. I'm a parent. I've been an educator for a long time, and I guess my word is fierce, because when it comes to not only this work, when it comes to being a parent, when it comes to thinking about how we have to continue and persevere, this work has to be fierce. And so for this work to continue and to be diligent, we've got to be fierce in what we want to do with it. So.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Adam Hicks. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment at Shelby County Public Schools. Like a lot of you, I have the perspective of being a former educator, principal, but also as a parent of 3 young kids who are school-aged. My expectation or hope for this group is fairly specific, I guess, given my role. I really want to see meaningful change in our assessment practices in the state, especially when it comes to one that is inclusive of all students, regardless of situation, circumstance, or disability.
Good morning. My name's Brooke Gill. I'm the Director of Family Engagement, Practice, and Policy for the Pritchard Committee. So loving the family-friendly school representation here today. I have a first grader and a fifth grader, so have that perspective. And my hope for this group is that we instill a sense of belonging for our students and for our families.
I'm Holly Elmore. I am the Chief Academic Officer at Washington County Schools. But for this work, I'm the perspective of a parent. I have 6 kids, birth and bonus. And we have the whole gamut. I have a dropout. I have an Air Force that's serving in South Korea. I have a teacher. I have a college student, a high school student, and a middle school student. And my husband's a principal. So basically, we drown in education every day. And so my word for this group is advocacy.
Hello, I'm Robin Cochran. I'm Superintendent of Washington County Schools. I'm also a parent of 3 children, and this is my 29th year in education, 14th year as superintendent. And as I've seen things come and go, I will say this is one of the most important aspects of the work that we have decided to commit to. It will be difficult, I'm certain, so my word is unwavering.
Hi, my name's Erica Ranicky. I am an intervention teacher at an elementary school in Fayette County. I also have 3 students who are gifted. My oldest is in one of the college programs that Kentucky offers as a junior this year. I volunteered in the school system up until I started teaching. I belong to a couple of SBDMs in our community. I also belong to a couple of LGBTQ ally groups. And I just am really hoping for equitable change.
And Bridget, I saw that you came in. Do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah. Thank you. And did we miss any of the council members? Okay. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I know that it took a few minutes this morning, but I really believe that the most important and impactful work that we do starts with relationships and knowing each other. And so that was the beginning of that. We do have several other people in the room. They're here as members of the Kentucky Department of Education. You have folks from school districts across the state here. You have partner and supporting organizations that are here. You'll get the chance to meet them more as we go through some of the presentations and exhibits later today. So you'll get the opportunity to meet all of those folks. I do want to introduce one other person. You've heard from her already, but we wanted to have a chairperson for this group, and we thought about who that might be. And we're going to appoint an interim chair, someone to get you started. And that's going to be Audrey Gilbert, the student from Frankfort High School. And Audrey's going to serve in this role for some period of time, and then we're going to actually open it up and ask you to select chairs or co-chairs among yourselves. But we really thought that would be difficult since you don't know each other very well, but we wanted to make sure that you get it started. And I think it's a great statement that we have a student starting off as the chair of this group. I'm going to turn things over to Karen Dodd now to walk you through kind of some logistics on next steps and any housekeeping items that we need to cover.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. All right, get over here where Megan can see me. Well, welcome everyone. It's certainly great to put faces to names. I've been in contact with just about everybody in this room, I think, at least once or twice over the past month. So just so that you know, bathrooms are out the way that you came in and to the right. So you'll go through the turnstiles and turn right, and they're down that hall on the right. The nearest exit is the same one that you came in. So if you need to leave, that's the way there. Breaks and transitions. We're going to be transitioning here soon. We also have some breaks that are built in. When we go to break, if we are transitioning, for instance, to exhibits, which we will be doing shortly, I ask that you wait until you get to your exhibit area, and then there will be bathrooms right across from each of the exhibit areas. So that'll be easier for all of you to kind of spread out. Binders. Let's go through the binders real quick, just so that you know what is coming. So we have the agenda in there first. All of the members, that's all of you with green lanyards. So we have all of the contact information for the members first, and then we have facilitators. Anybody with a blue lanyard is a facilitator. You can reach out to anyone with a blue lanyard if you have any questions, and they can either help you or they will direct you to me. And then we have exhibitors. So our folks all along the sides and some in the back are exhibitors that we will be going around and seeing what's been going on across Kentucky. So that'll be really exciting. And we have their contact information in case you have any questions afterwards with what you've seen. I do want to point out, if you go back a couple behind the teal, I think it's the third page after the teal. This is the exhibition schedule, and we actually have the wrong one in here. So I want you guys to make note of where you'll be going and what time. We are running a little bit behind, but Session A is going to be in here. So any exhibitors, I'm going to release exhibitors in just a moment. If you are an exhibitor for Area A, you're going to stay here. If you are an exhibitor for Area B, you're going to stay over on this side. And if you are an exhibitor for Area C, D, or E, you will go out these doors, any of the doors, and we will have folks take you to your areas so that you know where to go, and you'll be able to set up while we finish up a few things here. So I will let you all go in a minute. The times, we should be starting at 10:15 for the exhibit, so we're going to shoot for that. We might be a little bit late. Those, you'll have about half an hour to do your exhibition and answer questions. And then there will be 15 minutes to transition. So as members choose which exhibitions they want to go to, we'll give you 15 minutes in between each of the exhibitions. All right. So the first one will start at 10:15-ish, then 10:55, and then 11:35. And you will go straight from the exhibition areas to lunch, which will be on the 5th floor. And we will help you. We will have people at all of these areas to help you get where you need to go. And there are signs on all the floors to help you get there as well. All right. You will need somebody to badge you in on each floor. So we have folks that are going to help you. Once you get up to the floors, there will be somebody there to let you in. All right. The rest of this, you will need to take your binders with you when you go to the exhibition. There is, if you go to the next page, there's areas for you to take notes in there. And I'm sure there will be some questions for all of you about those exhibitions when you come back. Anything I'm forgetting? Donnie? Yeah.
For our closing today, we thought it would be good to have some folks do some reflection. So Lou and I will start that. Audrey's also going to offer a reflection at the end of the day. And we'd ask one other volunteer to just reflect. Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think that was all I had for housekeeping. So let's go ahead and have the exhibitors in areas C, D, and E go on out the doors, and we'll have folks help you get to your areas. Yeah. Jason, can I get you for get there with a meeting? All right. Everybody else is going to stay in this room. We're gonna, yeah, we're staying here. Yes, just the exhibitors are leaving. All members, stay where you are. Okay? Okay, all members, please stay seated. Just the exhibitors are leaving. All right, we're going to move on. I'd like to introduce Susan Lyons. She's one of our partners with Lyons Associates, and she's going to get us started.
Thank you. Wow. It is hard not to be struck by the incredible amount of experience, diverse experiences, and expertise that you all bring into this room. What I'm most impressed by is just how boldly we are all collectively dreaming for the future for the students in Kentucky. And what I'm going to be talking about today is just one of those three big ideas that Dr. Glass opened with. Just a focus on accountability. Not because the other work isn't important, but just to give us a taste of the kinds of questions that we'll be grappling with together in our work moving forward in the coming years. So that big moonshot thinking that Dr. Lou Young charged us with is what I'm trying to harness here. How might we imagine a better future for our schools if we were to change our systems of assessment and accountability? Over the last 20 years in the United States, school accountability has been federally regulated and it's looked largely the same. There have been minor changes state to state, minor changes in federal policy, but generally the model or the system has functioned similarly. The state administers annual testing according to state adopted standards in content areas. Those test scores are then combined with other indicators according to a state developed formula in order to rank order schools based on their performance. The lowest performing schools are then identified for targeted or comprehensive resources and supports with the intent of improving schools, with the intent of supporting those lowest performing schools to reduce gaps and to raise all boats. However, we have pretty compelling evidence over the last 20 years that we have not seen the kind of sustainable, meaningful changes, improvements in student learning that we had all hoped for at the turn of the century when we adopted this model. It's time for us to think, is there a way to do it differently? Can we do it better? Where can we look for other models? Where can we draw inspiration to deliver the types of meaningful improvements that we know all of our students deserve? This is true across the country, but it's most evident, it's really evident in the Kentucky United We Learn report. Kentuckians are frustrated with the current system for accountability. They feel that the current approach sends a message of distrust. They feel it's breeding competition. And they feel like students and educators, our most important stakeholders in the system, are being reduced to numbers on perhaps a test that doesn't fully represent their successes and perhaps their areas of need for growth to inform meaningful improvement. So Kentuckians envisioned a bold new future in the United We Learn report. They envision a system where folks are working together, communities are working with one another to learn and adopt best practices instead of competing, where educators actually have the data they need when they need it to make important decisions about curriculum and instruction. And districts can partner together, most importantly, with families and communities to make sure it's those people who are being served, that we can better serve all students. So how do we do this? As I said, because we've been under the same model for 20 years, it might be difficult to look to our own state or federal policy to find solutions. We need to look to literatures outside the measurement and evaluation, or outside the assessment and measurement literature, excuse me. We need to look to international examples. We need to look to see what collaboratives of communities are doing. Where can we find bright spots there to inspire our own thinking, not to steal what anybody else is doing, but just to help us think differently about this. Now I'm going to put some ideas up here, and many of you might rightly say, wait a second, you can't do that. We have these federal regulations that prevent us from doing things like the types of things you're describing. You're right. I'm going to ask you to put a pause on that thought for the moment. We will need to grapple with that. As a community, as a council, we will need to work with our subcommittee on policy and create a plan for meeting or changing federal requirements. But for right now, let's allow ourselves to dream boldly. So my colleagues and I have put together a framework that will allow us to do so. So these are just two dimensions on how you can think about accountability. Who's responsible for setting the goals and who's responsible for making the evaluation in terms of making the judgments of whether or not those goals are being met. In our current system of accountability, both of those responsibilities fall to the state. The state identifies what are the annual goals for schools, and the state identifies through its testing and other indicators whether or not schools are making progress on those. But we might allow ourselves to engage in thinking that changes the locus of control on either or both of these dimensions. So what would it look like if communities and schools and districts work together to identify their own goals for their learners? And either the state comes in and evaluates how progress is happening on those goals, or some type of collaborative meaning-making process happens around there. Let's allow ourselves to think differently about this for a minute. I'm going to present 3 examples of how this might look. The examples are not intended to just be options that we can select from as a council, but instead allow us to sort of provoke our thinking. How might we do this differently? What are other people doing? So the first example comes from the program evaluation literature. Other areas of public policy outside education have adopted something called empowerment evaluation and found success for making meaningful, locally driven changes to improve outcomes. Empowerment evaluation is grounded in these 10 principles here on the screen. And school accountability, reimagined as an effort in empowerment evaluation, would mean that the state is providing the tools and resources necessary to support a rigorous and high quality process at the local level for identifying goals and monitoring progress towards those goals. This is not the state washing its hands of its responsibility to evaluate schools. What we're doing here is we're reimagining the role that the state plays in that evaluation as a facilitator and an enabler of high quality local processes that may be the key to driving long-term, meaningful, sustainable change at the local level. That's just one example. Another example of how we might do this is thinking about an accreditation type based model. Examples of systems that leverage this type of model include the United Kingdom, New Zealand, a collaborative of communities in Massachusetts called the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Educational Assessment. And these models are built on a foundation of a high degree of trust between students, teachers, school leaders, and their communities. And that trust is essential for foregrounding the improvement function of accountability. How can we support you? How can we work together to drive improvement rather than a punitive, leading with distrust type of model? Assessment of student learning can be both a mix of state or common measures across schools and communities, as well as valuing local information about students from their classrooms and their own educators. In New Zealand, the footprint of the state assessment is much smaller. It's a much lighter touch, similar to those of you who might be familiar with NAEP, our National Assessment of Educational Progress. And then they have a process for incorporating local information about students. This is both useful for evaluating schools, but it's also useful for the teachers because we are building the capacity of teachers to practice high quality assessment in their classrooms. And that information is relevant then to inform what's going to happen tomorrow in their classrooms because it's their own, it's curriculum embedded. The state evaluate in an accreditation type model, the state's evaluation approach could then be tailored based on the needs of individual schools. A panel of outside reviewers perhaps could evaluate relative to co-constructed criteria, right? And one of the most important things here, and this is drawn from the Massachusetts Consortium of Innovative Educational Assessment, is under this type of accreditation type model, we don't need just a single summative score that rank orders schools. Instead, we could think about using rubrics relative to the different things that we care about so we can identify where are schools really excelling and succeeding and where do schools need additional areas of support. The Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Educational Assessment, they measure things like teaching and leadership, school culture, academic learning, community and well-being, and resources. They're not then just trying to throw those all into a formula and say this is the number that your school gets. Instead, we're looking at each of those categories separately and saying, okay, where is this school needing additional support? As a third example, we have sort of an augmented type model. We've seen this in Texas with their state accountability system. We've seen this in the core districts in California, where we have the state summative system that works in conjunction with and alongside a system of locally developed accountability systems, where each district develops their own accountability system based on what matters to them. And that information derived from that local accountability system is then reported alongside state data. So here, districts are developing their own plans using a state process. The plans are then submitted and approved by the state, and they can include indicators that go beyond what's currently allowed in federally approved systems, right? So they can include things like culture and climate, extracurricular activities, future-ready learning, and other locally determined data. This picture is just an image of how one district in Texas compares their two systems, reporting their state system alongside their local system. So as I said, these are examples intended to get us thinking about how might we do it differently? What makes sense for us and our communities? And this will be our work, a long journey of work that we're going to be doing together over the next years. Here are some of the questions that we'll be grappling with when it comes to accountability. Who should be determining the goals for each school? What must we all have in common, if anything? How will schools be evaluated and who will be making those final decisions? What is most important to measure when we're thinking about program quality? Who will decide what gets measured? And finally, what information must be reported publicly? Is there information that's just reported to schools? And then how will this information be shared? What is the most effective way to help drive improvement? So with that, I'll leave you to think. We don't have the answers to these questions, but I'm really looking forward to working with all of you to co-create a system for Kentucky in the future. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Donnie. Yep. Oh. Well, this was part of the plan, but I figured with this, yeah. Okay. And just for those who may not have been able to hear Donnie, he's saying at your table, let's take some time to think about not all of these questions. What strikes you? What stands out to you and most resonates with you? So we can start discussing some of the meat of the moonshot, as Donnie just referred to it. So let's take about 5 minutes to do that now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody to bring back the conversations to a close. Might have to do the clap once. Want to do it?
Once if you can hear me and hear my voice. Otherwise, if you can hear me.
If you can hear me, clap once. Well, that's going to be a real challenge for the day. Hi, everybody. So I'm so excited to be here. My name is Donnie Tran. I work for the Center for Innovation in Education. I had the pleasure of helping to facilitate the creation of the United We Learn report. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm applying for my Kentucky citizenship as soon as I can. Yeah. So I hope that the conversations helped to spark some moonshot thinking about what accountability could look like. But that's actually only half of the magic of what we're hoping to create today. I want to actually build on Chair Gilbert's charge to think about intentional co-creation, because that's actually the other part. We are going to talk about accountability and assessment, but we are also going to try to act differently and drive the way that the department works with the state to have a different flavor and different spirit of intentional co-creation. And so we wanted to, though, that's a really abstract concept. And so we wanted to actually paint a picture for you about what that could look like and actually how that could play out. And we're going to build on this idea of the purpose is to make recommendations around practice, policy, and investment ideas. That's our purpose. That's why we are here. But really, how will we do that? How will we do that in a way that models a different behavior of the State Department of Education? So we are going to build on the idea of 3 standing committees, which all of you probably saw in the application or in all of the materials about United We Learn. But there are 3 standing committees. First one is focused on the vibrant learning experiences. The second one is around accelerating innovation, especially in assessment and accountability. And the third is about building this bold new future through thinking about policy and what kind of policy changes will be needed to activate the vibrant learning experiences and that innovation. And that's at the heart of the council. But those standing committees, those are just titles. How do they actually function together is going to be through, we're just going to paint a picture for you through the lens of a portrait of a learner.
Good morning. My name is Meredith Brewer. I serve as Director of Education Policy and Executive Director of the State Board. So I have the distinct pleasure of working with Dr. Young. And I wanted to talk just briefly about how we developed our Portrait of a Learner that the board approved in October. We wanted to take seriously this charge for co-creation. And so the board formed a subcommittee of our curriculum committee, and we had members from across the state serve on that subcommittee, and some of those members are here today, and we're so happy to see you all. And that committee met over the summer to talk through what would be the recommended skills and dispositions that we would want on a state level portrait of a learner. But that work actually started many years ago. Some of you may be familiar with the work that Dr. Pruitt did around the state, encouraging our districts to develop portraits. And I know that many of you do have portraits in your home districts. And it was really important to the board that we in no way imply that the state level portrait would come in and supplant the work that you guys have done. We want that local contribution. So we went together this past summer and we looked at what was already sort of on the table, which were the first 5 skills and dispositions that you see there. And the board talked through the subcommittee talked through those recommended skills and dispositions and felt like one was missing. They really wanted to be sure that we included creativity purposefully. And so it was recommended that we add creative contributor to the list of skills and dispositions. Once the subcommittee felt comfortable with that, they put that forward as a recommendation for the curriculum committee of our board, and then ultimately the full board to consider and approve. So in October, this past October, the board did approve. So we have a state level portrait in Kentucky, which was a goal that our board set. And we are very happy to report that we have this portrait. But the question is, what do we do with it? And so the subcommittee did talk about a proposed implementation plan. But we want to have the council really think about, what do we do now that we know what we want every student in Kentucky to be able to do once they leave our system? But how do we go about making sure that this is informed by the voices represented in this room and within your communities? So that's what we want you to dig in on. We have a proposal in your binders that we want you to take a few minutes to read through. And then we're going to put on the slide a couple of questions for you to discuss with your group. So take a few minutes to read through the proposal that's provided. And remember that we're trying to think in a new way. So there's probably a traditional way we could have done this, but we want to think of an innovative way to utilize this portrait here in Kentucky.
What you see there is a mock-up of what the three committees might do with something like a portrait of a learner. This is the goal of the next 2 days is actually to define how we are all going to work together. But we wanted to be able to paint a picture for you of what it could look like, because we're trying to do something pretty different. In addition to taking a moonshot, we're actually trying to build the rocket, right? And so we wanted to try to give you a sketch of what the process, how it could play out as we work together collectively. And so what we would like to invite you to do now is to discuss at your tables a little bit about how you see this process playing out, what you liked about it, what questions you have about how it would play out, and then what more would you like to see in terms of the way that the council will function. So this is not meant to be prescriptive. This is not a promise, and this is not a claim about how it will work. It's just a model, one way in which it could play out. And so we want you to interrogate it like that. Consider how you would think about it, and have that discussion at your tables. Okay? And we'll come back together in a few moments. Okay. So what I heard just from going around the room and eavesdropping on your conversations is that some of you were discussing the portrait of a learner itself, like what do you see in there? And there was also some really rich discussion around the process of the council. I'm hoping to maybe hear from one person about what questions they have or what reflections they have on the COOL Council, the United We Learn Council's process. Is there anybody who had a reflection about that?
I think it's easy to look at this sheet that shows the three subcommittees and imply that there's a sort of definite timeline by the way you read it. Okay, so these people creating vibrant learning experiences are going to start, and down the road, accelerating innovation is going to, take up from there, and then the Bold New Future will help make it all happen. But I also see that really the Bold New Future needs to sort of be at the beginning. It's really a circle. There are already things that are known being in the way things, and you start with those in all those groups and move forward. So I wouldn't look at it as a definite timeline, but more as a circle.
I love that. Yes, I think it's meant to sort of read linearly so that we can see a process, but it will be cyclical. I really love that reflection, Chris. Thank you. And that it will feed itself, right? You're going to have things that come out and there's going to be shared learning, and it's not going to quite look like a line and an arrow. It's going to look like a squiggle. And that's good. So we're going to start that squiggle right now. So we have communities from across the Commonwealth who are in different parts of the building who are here to share with you what they have been doing to create vibrant learning experiences for their young people and for their communities. And so this is an opportunity to, they're handing out schedules for where the different presentations will be occurring. But this, I want to highlight for you inside your notebook is a page that looks like this. This is the note catcher. You are the sense makers for what you are hearing and what these communities are sharing with you. So we're going to ask you to make notes about what you are hearing about vibrant learning experiences. What are you hearing about assessment and accountability? What are you hearing about co-creating with communities? What are you hearing about the policy changes that might need to emerge? When you come back after lunch, we will be doing some work to process and synthesize what you have heard from these exhibitions. So this is your task this page here. Okay, it looks like the note catcher on the back of the schedule. The new schedule you've just received is an accurate one about where the different exhibitions are occurring. We are a few minutes behind schedule. Yes. So we worked together on the original Kentucky Coalition for Advancing Education, and I think Alfonso's perspective is so valuable. And it's reflective of the actual charge and mission of this group is to keep information, true empathetic, empathy-driven information coming into this common space. Because I want to echo what he noted, that it's very easy, as a friend of ours, Tony Monfiletto, who works in New Mexico, says, it's very easy for a portrait of a learner or a portrait of a graduate to become a projection of adults rather than a promise to young people and a promise to communities. And so we will keep that front and center, and it is your experiences as people in communities, students in communities, teachers in communities, to make sure that we are understanding how it's actually playing out, not how we hope and infer it's playing out. To bring back what Dr. Glass mentioned, that this is a neural network, it's a sensing network, to be honest about how things are happening and what is happening in the field. So that is what you're going to hear now, is a bit of what is happening in the field from the perspective of community members and educators who are part of various initiatives that are playing out in the system. Yes.
Yeah. So to go along with what he said, I just like, because we have in at least I'm sure every county does, but in Jessamine County we've got a statement that's, it's like this, but it seems it's in, like, on paper it seems like it would be great, but in actuality it's not enforced in the school. I don't get like that on the daily basis of my education. I get none of that. So I just kind of want to know, do you really have a system to make sure this is enforced and that we're actually getting this? Because as of right, we're not getting anything close to what's promised in our statement. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's the right question. And that is what we hope the conversation will very much focus on. Accountability and assessment is meant to drive change and improvement. And if it doesn't do that, then it is not fulfilling its core function. And so that is the ongoing question that will drive our work. So I'm so glad that you said it so clearly and eloquently. But it begins with learning. Okay, so it begins with our learning as a council about what's happening, being honest about it, and being honest about where it's happening and not happening. Okay, so let's go hear about it. Follow your schedules. You'll leave directly from lunch at 12:15, and you'll have 20 minutes and about 20 minutes in each exhibition. Yes, you choose where you want to go. Choose where you want to go.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Every presenter's favorite time slot, after lunch. So I hope everyone had as good an experience as I had this morning in the 3 sessions that I got to participate in. And we didn't want you to just have those experiences and then just let them go. So as we start to think about what we want this council to really do, we are going to start this afternoon with a series of activities to help you think about what we like to call, and many people like to call, a learning agenda for the work of this council. And a learning agenda is basically that bridge between what we don't know, or what we know to be the case today, and what we want to be the case tomorrow, and what are the questions that we raise amongst ourselves that get us from one place to the other. So what we're going to do this afternoon for the next couple of hours is we're going to do a series of activities in which you reflect on what you did this morning, what you heard, what you learned. So we're going to just leave you all basically where you are in terms of grouping, right? So instead of you thinking about your standing committee that you're going to be a part of, or because it's all the same, you're going to talk about all 3 standing committees, you're going to talk about all the different, because many of you didn't see the same sessions. So we're going to leave this group over here, and as we go through the activities, you'll see these posters, the chart paper on that wall, that's your all's chart paper. The group here in the center, your chart paper is back there on that pole. And the folks over there, you're over there on the wall. So we're going to start from individual to group. So the first activity that we're going to do today, you have on your table Post-it notes. Most of them are not open yet, so if somebody would be so kind. And each person needs to have a few Post-it notes. It doesn't need to be a huge number. But you're going to start today reflecting on the exhibitions that you saw this morning. Remembering, as I mentioned a moment ago, that not everybody in this group saw the same sessions, but hopefully amongst the group that's in that section of the room, you saw all of them. Somebody saw each one. And so what you're going to start with is an individual task. You're going to take these Post-it notes and you're going to write down your thoughts about 3 things from each of the exhibitions that you saw this morning. So the same 3 things for each one of those exhibitions. And those 3 things are, we want you to write down a shout out from the exhibition that you saw. So something that you were like, that's really great. And it's obviously important that you put what the exhibition was that you saw, and then the shout out. The second thing you're going to write down is something you learned at that particular exhibition. And then finally, something you wondered from that exhibition. What's a question or something that you're still wondering about from that exhibition? So shout out, learned, and wonder. So as you can imagine, because we put a bunch of chart paper on the walls, that the idea here is that you're going to place those sticky notes, those Post-it notes, on the posters, and keep in mind, remembering that you're grouped. So center people, you're back there in the back. Those people, those people. What we have done, however, is we've put these things into the 3 standing committees. So, but right now, but your shout outs can just all go, all of that can go on the one, right, Brian? I'm doing this correct. Okay. But then when we get into the learns and the wonders, we want you to do a little thinking yourself, and that is, where should it go? If I had this learning or this wondering, what of those three standing committees does it make the most sense that that particular learning that I have go? It'll also help us get some information and data about where the different exhibitions people feel like where they fall. So, okay, so for about 15 minutes, we want you to do that piece of this activity. So we want you to think about the different exhibitions that you went to this morning and write down your responses to the three: shout out, learn, and wonder. Okay? Hey, if you could hop up there if you haven't gotten yours up on the boards yet. So for about the next 25 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little organizational activity. So we want you to go, as the groups that you're in, to your posters and have some discussion about what you see, and are there, for instance, are there things that are common or alike that you could group together? So in other words, did many people see the same thing, or wonder the same thing, or learn the same thing? So we're just sort of trying to organize the Post-its now on the charts, particularly for those that are around the three standing committees. So just take the next 25 minutes or so as a group, everybody kind of migrate over to your boards and have that conversation. Okay. So that was a lot of really good conversation about what everyone saw and heard and learned this morning. Now we're going to shift into the development of learning agendas for the three standing committees. Now, the standing committees aren't officially going to meet until tomorrow, but we thought it might be nice to have something for them when they started their work tomorrow that was kind of the pre-learning agenda. So the next 40 minutes of our time together today is going to be spent in a couple of activities designed to help begin to figure out what that learning agenda is. And remember, the learning agenda is the questions you have about where you are and where you want to go. What are the things you need to know in order to get to more vibrant learning experiences, innovation, especially around assessment and accountability, and building all of this through strong community foundation and strong policy. So, for the first 10 or so minutes, we're going to go back to being individuals again, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to think about, because you're going to spend the rest of the day or the rest of this session inside one of the standing committees. So your brain is going to be thinking, but it doesn't have to be the standing committee to which you were assigned. So if you have another one that you would like to think about for a little bit today before tomorrow when you go to the one that you're thinking about, that you are in, you can do that. But for the first, so what you're going to do for the next rest of this 2-hour block of time is you're going to be thinking in terms of one of the standing committees. Now, for the first 10 minutes, Brian is busily working around, pulling up. You'll notice now there are new posters up. He's getting to the third, but you'll see back here it says Learning Agenda on the back wall, and it has 2 columns. The first column is basically tasks or ideas that you have thought about that might be things that these original posters and all the Post-it notes might have had you thinking about. So what's something that we need to be thinking about, a question that needs to be addressed as we move forward on this work? So that's the one side of the column where it says, which I can't read, possible questions. Thank you, Payne. Wow, these glasses don't work now. And on the other side is possible resources to support addressing that particular learning agenda idea. So you're going to be thinking about two different things. You're going to be thinking about the things you think we need to be thinking about, and what are we going to need in order to do that thing? Whether that's human resources, financial resources, any resources. So for just about 10 minutes, grab your Post-its again, take a look at what you've already been thinking about today. And again, you can go to, you don't have to stick in your third of the room this time. You can go wherever you want to. But over here is vibrant learning experiences. In the center is innovation, accelerating innovation. And then over there is Bold New Future. So just do that fairly quickly, and then the second part of this activity is you're going to go and get in a group around those posters based on where you want to go. So which one of the 3 standing committees do you want to start at today? And remember, what you're doing in this 40 minutes total is sort of helping that standing committee when they get together tomorrow to have someplace kind of as a starting point. So what are those things you think they need to know first as a standing committee? Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
So over lunch, I got a chance to sit down with Azurdi, and we were talking about what she saw when she was in some of the exhibitions. And if you remember from the introduction time, she represents the juvenile justice, like the education that occurs in the juvenile justice context. And so we had a really, I think, rich and powerful conversation for me personally around to what extent are those prototypes and those experiences that these districts are developing, to what extent are they being tested and designed with these students that are on the margins or outliers or edge cases of the system? That's a really fascinating question. And so that you can imagine that being a learning agenda question, because that's something that we have to explore, right? If we're trying to make a system that works for all students, we better have that question in mind. And so that's the kind of question maybe that you might consider that's percolating for you. When you were observing some of these exhibitions, what sort of questions like that were coming up for you? Because that will both guide us, our collective work, but also we're going to share these questions back with those L3 communities, with the deeper learning communities, with the PBL works. And they might choose to take up some of those questions and start to design towards those questions in order to answer them, in order to give us more insight about how they work out. And so I just wanted to tell that story because it's a very concrete moment for me to think like, oh, this is why we're doing this learning agenda thing. And so I just want to put that, offer that up to you as you're starting to reflect on what kind of questions you might want to start to think about. Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm just going to piggyback on Donnie. I do that sometimes with my story from this morning, which is very similar. I was in the Greenup County session, and I know many people were there. Tracy asked a very important question, just like Donnie, just that question that Donnie was talking about as well. And her question was, in the state of Kentucky, we require every student to have an individual learning plan. Well, then why don't we have individual learning assessments? If we expect every student to have a specific plan by which they will go through high school, then why do we have them all do the same assessing? To me, that's another question, just like what Donnie was sharing. That's another piece to this accelerating innovation piece, is how do you ask students to be involved in individual learning plans and have personalized graduation requirements, but not have the assessment and accountability system line up to that. So 10 minutes really quickly, just individually write down if you have one of those questions and put it on the appropriate poster board for that standing committee. They moved them back there, so. Vibrant Learning Experiences is back in that corner. So for the balance of the afternoon, we're going to have you move to whichever standing committee you would like to participate in for this afternoon, remembering that it doesn't have to be the standing committee to which you were assigned. So you're going to choose a standing committee, and then those groups are going to go back over to the posters, particularly the one that has got learning agenda written at the top of it. And what you're going to do is the same sort of activity you did with the other charts. You're going to start to take those Post-its on that learning agenda document or chart and organize them so that they can be more easily understood by the standing committee tomorrow. Okay? You'll also notice at the bottom of each of these three charts that not only are you going to be working on the learning agenda, the initial learning agenda for that standing committee, but you're also going to be giving yourself some thinking time around how does that standing committee interact with the other two, and as for the council as a whole. So not just what the learning agenda for that standing committee is, but how does it relate to the other two? So what we're going to do for about 25 minutes is we're going to send you to those charts in groups, whichever group you choose, do this work, and then after that, the end of our session today will be a share out of those three groups so that they can sort of say to that standing committee, okay, guys, here's where you start from. Okay, so what does that mean? Does anybody know what that means? Every group needs to pick a spokesperson. So when you get through this time together, about 25 minutes, then we'll come back out and we'll share out to finish out our time together with the three groups. And it won't be like every single word that's written on those charts, right? So you're all going to have about 8 minutes apiece to tell your story at the end of the time. So go ahead and head to wherever you're going to head and get started with the activity and choosing someone to okay. So for the rest of our time today, we're going to hear, I'm just going to keep talking because I got a clock. So okay, for the rest of our time today, or most of the rest of our till almost 3 o'clock, we're going to share out what you guys have been learning about the learning agendas for these 3 standing committees. So I know that because of logistics, we had more than just 3 groups, right? So how many did we have? I guess I should start there. There was one over here. This group was just one group, right over here in this corner. And this one was just one, so these just 2 here. So there's 4. All right. So I'm going to start over here. And I need whoever the spokesperson is to come up here to the mic and share what you learned in your time together today, obviously starting with which standing committee you were.
That's a lot. Okay. This is fun. Okay. We were with the in creating a vibrant learning environment experience. Okay. And then right as you were calling us back up here, somebody had a really great point that we hadn't had a chance to push around yet, but it was what defines a vibrant learning experience? So maybe when this committee meets, maybe that's something like a good starting place. How do we define what a vibrant learning experience is and what does that look like? Then we took the questions that were posted on the thing and we organized them into students, students, educators, community, parents and guardians and everyone, and then a question mark one. We don't know what to call that one. But some big themes, we asked the students who were in our group what they thought. Where are you, Rose? What did you say? I forgot. Which one was it? Oh, this one. Sorry. How do we intentionally show, not tell, what a portrait of a learner is? They were saying we've been throwing around this word a lot today. So how do we explain to them, show them what that is instead of just telling them? Is that fair? Okay. And then let's see, we went through, do you want me to read these questions? Like what, do I need a rubric like for this presentation? Anything specific? We're doing good. All right, you tell me if I got throw more at me. All right, so some of the big questions that we were looking at, how do we remove barriers? So looking at barriers for all of our students, we put equity at the top for students specifically, creating equitable outcomes. This was also mentioned by our students that were in the group. So ensuring how do we do that in this type of learning environment? How can learning experiences support students who don't have a specialized interest? Thought that was really interesting. And that was possibly in our resources group too. We had the board got split, so some of our things are still back there. And then let's see. How do we prepare teachers to do this? And then the big one that we talked about probably the most, how do we prepare teachers to engage in whatever this new environment looks like? All of us are here for a specific reason because we care about this and we want to do this work. But if we go back to our buildings, those of you who are active teachers, you know that we all don't think alike. If you think about down your hallway, there are teachers who are not going to buy into this. So how do we get those teachers on board, and how do we start to shift that, especially in bigger school districts or school buildings? But then one that we also talked about was, and we battled back and forth a little bit, is how do we create partnerships between families, educators, and students? So thinking about, as we move this work forward, we talked about words instead of saying, we started off with educating. How do we educate parents? And then you said, I don't like to be educated as a right? And so how do we inform
parents. And then it turned into this sort of partnership thing, which makes a whole lot more sense. There's been and then we mentioned there was a disconnect between what parents are bringing or what kids are bringing home. A lot of us move on to these digital platforms, and so we don't have great communication going home with our parents. So how do we inform parents who want to be involved? And how do we build those partnerships? So that was a big question. And let's see if I'm missing any others. Am I almost done? What? What? Oh, I got 1 minute. I got 2 minutes. Okay. I got this. Thank you. Thank you. How can rural districts with limited employment opportunities provide innovative experiences for their students? And that we put under our community issues here. So how, again, talking about how are we going to connect our communities, trying to figure that work out. Let's see. Oh, this was a good one too. How do we ensure the integrity of our PBLs? During this, I'll say this too, during one of our sessions, I texted the chair of my department, I'm an English teacher, texted the chair of our department, and I was like, see, PBLs are everywhere again. And he was like, well, let's talk about the research on whether that's all real. And I was like, it is. And I quoted, he said, a deeper knowledge or deeper learning isn't always PBL, but PBL is always deeper learning if it's done right, right? So how do we ensure the integrity of that work? So getting everybody on board. Am I out of time? Okay, anybody else from my group got anything else to say? Did I miss anything big? My group people, any, am I missing anything? Well, then I yield my time. There you go.
Thank you. All right, so we had two groups in here in the middle. Which one wants to go first? Oh, okay.
And accountability and how we can accelerate innovation in that. And I think Betty said it best when she was talking about how our current assessment system is on content, but we're switching with Portrait of a Learner to something that's based on competency. So how can we develop an assessment system that's based on competency and not regurgitation of content? And does every child need to know every content standard that the state puts out for us? Is that necessary in order to be successful in post-secondary readiness? So some common themes that we had talked about in both sides of the group, and I kind of hopped between both of them because I got really interested in conversation in one, and then I went over to the other one and got sucked into a conversation over there. So how do we have solutions for all districts when there are so many individual needs and pathways? How do we operationalize criteria so it's unique to so many industries? And Greenup really talked a lot about that today, about how they had to make decisions about what was best for the students in their community or what got them points on post-secondary readiness. And they went with what was best for what the students in their communities, with getting them prepared for union membership, because those were the jobs in their communities. What impact does federal accountability requirements have on the development of state and local systems? And then how a lot of discussion in both sides of those groups was about needed resources, because we all know the inequity of resources across the state of Kentucky, whether you're in a rural district and you're the employer for the entire county and the school district, and there's no other really, or you're in a an urban community where it's generation upon generation poverty, and you've got people and resources around you, but not necessarily the ability to build those partnerships. And so then how can the state assist with some of that? How can they assist with building partnerships for districts and communities and resources? And then I'm gonna let you add in the rest.
of course, the innovation group couldn't follow any like procedure, right? So we were a little outside of the box as we were trying to organize these into some groups. So some of the big themes that came out of this is that we all really appreciated and loved the innovations that were happening with personalized portfolios and those digital platforms for kids to showcase what they've learned and like how they reach mastery. But then there's also still that looming, like the state testing and things that have to happen. So how can we make those, the question about those personalized learning, how can we develop those personalized accountability? So our group kept getting hung up on like, we have to follow these rules, right? So it was very helpful. We had a prompt, can't find her, but she said, just think, sky in the pie. If you didn't have those regulations, what would you want it to look and sound like? Which helped to shift our thinking. For so long, we have to operate within these policies, but that's the magic of our time together. Is that that's what this work's about? Is not having to have that right now. We will eventually, but not right now. So I think that helped us to see it through a different lens. So one of the first things we talked about, a question we have to answer is, what does success look like? And what does mastery look like? And having a common shared language. And that's really important. We can't be speaking about the same things and having 7 different measures of that one item. So that was a big, for us, a wondering is how are we going to generate that shared common language so that when we go out to all of our districts and our counties, we're all saying the same things to get this work done. So another big thing was just, sorry, I have to read my own handwriting on this side. How can we translate those experiences from things that we've learned into accountability, having that shared language, those personalized things, and then also the inequities. So when we identify a school or there's those regulations that say your TSI, like these are the things you have to do, well, now we're pulling administrators and time and resources away from the classroom, which is where it should be to meet the policy to say, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So that's an inequity all on its own. So how can we shift the policies? I'm going to use the handcuffs because I can't think of a nicer word, but how can we shift away from here's what you've done wrong, follow this template to make it right, to I'm your partner and I'm your coach, and I'm going to be with you on this journey in order to support the kids, because that's what matters, not you filling out my form to make sure that you do it right the next time. So that was like a big part of our conversation, because that is kind of the big scary thing for us, right? If you don't do it this way, you're going to get in trouble, right? The big bad wolf's going to come get you. So what can we do to help make that a more cohesive partnership? Was very important to us, an innovative way to do that. And then for us, that was, where do we start? It seems like an easy thing, just to say this is where we're at and this is what we want to happen. But there are logistical steps that have to happen. In a classroom, you don't just walk in with this great idea. You plan. That's teaching 101. So we have to have a very specific way of getting this off the ground. So what is our catalyst for this change, and how do we make that happen? So those are big wonderings we had.
Okay, they saved us some time. Are you back over there, Roger?
I think I can remember all of the things that we said over there. But first, we talked about the role of the policy committee, because there's a common misconception that we have to wait until everything is like tried out and tested now, but it's already been happening. So we in the policy committee can make the changes to make things more allowed, to make that the norm. So we don't have to wait for the other committees. That's just something that we talked about at the very beginning. But we sorted our questions into a few main categories, one being stakeholder engagement. How can we take current engagement and use that for new efforts, put it towards some more deliberate efforts, and how can we continue engaging more community members, more family members, more students, more teachers, administrators, etc. That was mentioned a lot. How can we use these people in policy conversations? Because typically those are the most technical conversations and not something that everyone necessarily feels comfortable with. We also talked about the difference between federal and state policy, how those work together, how they don't work together, how they can work together. And also what local policy would look like, because some changes can be done right now at the local level with simple local policy change. So that there were a lot of questions over there that touched on, well, what does the state do about this? Just questions that we could answer even right now, like by simply defining and making it more public what the process looks like for education policy, what regulations look like, what statute looks like, how those all work together. That was a big thing. Also, looking at uniform assessment, that was mentioned. If we have all different kinds of students, why are we assessing them in the same way? And how can we make policy to fit different types of assessment, to fit different types of students? Those were our main questions that were asked. Like I said, a lot of them were about what can we do in the current system, the current federal umbrella, to make adjustments to our state policy, to make it more innovative, because there are lots of things that we can do, lots of things that we have done. We just have to work on them a little bit more, put them in the appropriate places. So, yeah.
Okay, does anybody, did that elicit any, did anybody want to add anything inside your own group that maybe you thought your spokesperson may not have hit on? It's quiet. It's nearing the end of the day. Okay, before our illustrious leaders come up, there is one more little activity that I need you all to do. You had the note catcher that you had this morning that we showed you where you could write your own thoughts down about what you were seeing in those exhibitions. What I want you to do for just a few minutes is I want you to, well, I gotta, hold on. I want you to do, you've been talking about the learning agendas for the standing committees for the last little bit. Now I want you to take back off all those group hats, put back on your individual hat. You are a member of the Kentucky United We Learn Council. I need you for the next few minutes to think about what is your personal learning agenda as a member of the council. What you might want to learn as a member of the council. What do you think you're going to be able to contribute to the council? Because of what you bring to the council. So just think about everything that you've learned this morning and this afternoon, and just jot down for yourself. This is sort of like your journaling time. What's your anticipation for what you want to get from this? What do you want to give to it? This whole process that as we go through it. So just take a few minutes to do that. And then when we're in about 5 minutes, we'll turn it back over to Chair Young.
In some moments of individual reflection. And we're going to close out today with some collective reflections about what we've experienced. And so I'm going to kick it off, then turn it over to Audrey and then to Caleb. And then Dr. Glass is going to close us out, get you guys out of here for a much deserved afternoon and evening of rest. So my reflections are just about gratitude. Looking around this room, the power of the talent and commitment of the individuals in this room is amazing. But when I think about the synergy that is right at our fingertips with the folks in this room, I'm almost overwhelmed by your gift of time and talent to this work. I am grateful that we have students at our table. I've been working in student voice for several years, and I will never forget national webinar I was doing with Student Voice, Raina, when a student said to me, I got tired of not being invited to the table, so I pulled up my own chair. And then another student said, I was so tired, I made my own table. You aren't invited to our table. This is our table. I am grateful for the unfettered way that you guys jumped into this thinking, that you were able to shake off the constraints that are around us all the time. You didn't give in to that. You didn't get sucked into why we can't do what we need to do, but instead you kept pushing the envelope in your conversations about what is possible. A little granular note, I'm really grateful for Susan Lyons' presentation today. Travis and I were talking about this at lunch. A lot of things mapped on to me today when I heard from her about empowerment evaluation, accreditation models, and augmented models. And then I heard Brian Kriesman talk about a hybrid of those things. So the potentiality really struck me today and sunk deep into me today. I'm really thankful for the efforts of the KDE team, a dedicated team of folks who make no mistakes. Today was not easy to pull off, but many thanks to the team for making this happen. To our partners from CIE, our new inside joke is that we trust the Tran, and it is such a treat to work with them all the time, and they push my thinking every time I'm around them. Thank you to our amazing exhibitors. Karen keeps saying exhibitionists, but I don't think that's the right word. So to our amazing exhibitors and to all of the facilitators in this room, again, an amazing brain trust. And I did want to, before I hand over the mic, I did want to pass along to Karen Dodd that there's been some questions about whether we might all have access to the slide decks in some kind of shared format. So we'll touch on that as well. So my gratitude to all of you for today. Chair Gilbert. No, I forgot the other part. No, I worked so hard on this. I have to do it, Audrey. Sorry, I made my first Wordle. I was thrilled this morning to hear your all's words. Your aspirations and hope for this work far exceeded my expectations. So as I was writing them down, I got more and more excited. Words like Darlene started with unity. We heard hope several times. We heard passion, possibility. I fell in love, Tracy Hulsman, with relentless, unwavering, Robin Cochran, urgency, sense of urgency from Becky, and then fierce. Maybe that was Tracy Hulsman, but then fierce with a big exclamation. So uncovering the promise. I think it's lovely how your words kind of fell out there. The larger words there really speak to me about this work. So I was really touched by your all's thoughts as we even opened the day. What a treasure. Thank you.
That was worth it because I really like a good word cloud, and I like it in the shape of Kentucky. It's even better. Okay. So today I saw a united vision for the future of Kentucky education. Often we talk about the silos that we all exist in and the efforts that are happening that nobody knows about except for us, or at least that's how we feel. But I saw a united vision for the future of our education and a bunch of passionate people doing really, really hard work and really important work to make that vision a reality. So to echo what Chair Young said, I'm grateful for the effort that you all have put in today, for simply saying yes to being here, to showing up, to putting your best foot forward for all of Kentucky students now and for many years to come. So I'm grateful first and foremost. I also saw a passion for change. Often when you're doing really difficult work like this, you can get tired very easily. I know that I can for sure, but as you're going throughout this process of innovating, of changing things, especially when you're doing it, sometimes when it feels like on your own, you can get really tired. But being able to see all of these people today come with such energy for innovation and such a passion for change was really inspiring. And I appreciated that as a Kentucky student, knowing that this many people, this many important people care about the future of my education and my brother's education and everybody who goes to my school and all of that. I also saw a passion to change the system to make it work for all. That was something that was mentioned a lot, to make it work for all children. Not just children, all children, capital all, because it's really important that we are highly intentional about making this work for everyone, making it to where we're reaching every student and considering all situations. I also saw intentional co-creation and inclusion, which I touched on this morning. That was what my hope for this effort is. Intentional, and everyone was very intentional today. As I watched the exhibit presentation, the exhibition presentations, I was very inspired because I saw that everyone was being very intentional. All the work that's happening in our local communities is very intentional, and we are working together to make sure that that work does not just fall in the shadows, that we are elevating it up. We're giving those opportunities to other districts. We're helping each other out. That's something we do in Kentucky. You know, we help our neighbors when they need it, and that's what we did today. We showed examples of what we're doing in our districts. We're sharing those resources. We're offering help because we're excited and we want other people to join us on this journey. I also saw thoughtful inquiry and vulnerability when it's difficult to share what you're doing, especially when it's not common practice, when it's something that's maybe unique to your district, when it's something that is challenging, something that you kind of like get a head tilt and an eyebrow raise at when you bring it up in other professional development. But our districts were vulnerable today, and I really appreciate that because it's not something that's easy to do. It's not easy to come to Frankfort, to the big scary KDE, and say, look, this is what I'm doing. It's little and unique, but it's powerful. So I appreciate that vulnerability. And as everybody who watched those presentations today, you should consider that they weren't only bringing those ideas, they were bringing parts of themselves, because when you work on something that hard, it becomes a part of you. So they were really being vulnerable and presenting their hearts there for you today. So definitely appreciate that. And then I saw brave and exciting people today. Once again, with the districts, I know how difficult it can be to present those ideas, to face those questions, because you all ask some really hard questions, which is good, but sometimes when you're presenting, it can feel scary. So I was really just thankful for the brave and exciting exhibitions that we saw today, for all of you here that put your best foot forward, kept going. After lunch is really hard, you know. I know that it's very hard, but we look at all the post-it notes. We did a lot of work this afternoon, and I know we have a lot more to come tomorrow. So thank you all for all the effort that you've put in today, and I'm excited to see where we go tomorrow. Taylor.
All right. I'll start by clearing my throat. Sorry about that. My apologies. Let's just take a deep breath, right? Because we're here, and it's honestly a bit surreal to be here thinking about it, because this work has been underway now for a while. And so to finally be here at this point in the process of taking the United We Learn vision out and imagining how we can implement it across the state, it's amazing. I'll start with saying that this morning during Carter County's exhibition, I heard the term institutionalized to describe our current education system. And that word really stuck with me, because since becoming a student advocate, I've heard that word used to describe a lot of things. We think about institutional poverty in my home region of Eastern Kentucky. We think about institutional racism. We think about how problems are built into systems. So, in order for us to advance forward, it's important to think about how we can turn our education system from institutional to individual. And that is something that I have just loved to think on today. I also want to say here, and I love this quote as well from earlier today, schedules kill momentum. Now, to me, the schedule kills momentum quote represents a larger idea that tradition should be questioned. Sure, we've had a traditional way of doing things when it comes to education, but it's so awesome when we take the time to imagine bold possibilities for the future, and when we question tradition. I also really appreciated hearing about how students are at the front line, so they need to be first in priority when we think about this work. Students are the folks who take assessments. They are the ones who are right there at the very core. I also have thought about how then throughout today and before, Kentucky is really leading the way with this work. It's unlike any other work anywhere. It's just truly incomprehensible, really, how stakeholder centered this is. I mean, it's just great to see. So I think that it's wonderful, we're able to join here today and take part in it. Some words that stuck out to me today include passion. All of you bring your passions with you. Your passion, of course, being education. As a student, your passion is your experience and ultimately striving to fulfill your goals. I think it's important that tomorrow we continue to imagine what possibilities exist. We look at what currently exists. We imagine what we can create. And also tomorrow, I think it's great for us to continue to inquire and to think about, to ask questions and to think about exactly how we intend to continue this work in Kentucky. I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to be here with all of you today, and I look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, all three of you. And isn't it just a shame that our student representative and our recent student representative are so shy? That's something we'll struggle through. It was a delight to be with all of you today. I have three quick reflections. One is just about the talent and capacity that is already here, both in this room and across the state. When we were going around this morning and you were introducing yourselves and telling some about your background and the voices or perspective that you represent in here, I was really blown away at the breadth of talent and expertise and experience that we assembled here that is part of this group. That's powerful. This is a big council, a big group, and so that can be unwieldy, but I also feel like we've got a real focused direction emerging from this. And so that's exciting. And it's not something that you see everywhere. I also want to acknowledge, and we skipped over you this morning, but if you are a staff person or one of the partner organizations that's here with us, could you please stand up if you're with one of those folks? Yeah. We've got folks in the back here. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Hats off and thank you to the department and all the supporting organizations that made today possible. That's another reflection I have, is that you don't always have this level of support or the talent, the horsepower that is being put behind this. Some of it's come from our federal grant that is helps us with the assessment and accountability work that we have. But of course, that's connected to this collaboration work and deeper learning work. It's a nexus that all connects together. So we're really fortunate to have that. And finally, could all of the students that are here with us please stand? Thank you. The student inclusion into this is very intentional because it serves as a reminder of why we have to keep going, why we have to keep doing the work that we're doing. And we appreciate their honesty and sense of purpose and sense of justice that sometimes as adults we can lose sight of. When we showed this morning that portrait of a graduate and those things that we hope happen for kids in our schools, and Rader said, that is not what happens for me. That was a lot of truth that we had to wrestle with and think about what are we going to do about that. And so thank you, Rader, for that comment. And thank you, students, for being here with us. An announcement for the students. Tony wants to make sure she gets a picture of you, so if you can hang around for a few minutes afterwards. We'll meet here tomorrow. We're scheduled to go from 8 to 8:30 for welcome and introductions. We're not. Lou and I probably will start about 8:27. Yeah. So we'll have bad coffee and carbohydrates here again tomorrow for you. And I think Karen, you had some announcements as well.
Thank you. Okay, you all can leave your binders here. We're going to make some updates to them while you all go home and sleep. You can also leave your name cards, your name tents here. Let's see, what else? If you need a substitute teacher form, I have them in my hand right now. So just see me afterwards if you need that form filled out. And then that just gets emailed back to us. And I think Jason already hit on everything else. Leave your name tags. Did I say your name tags? So the ones around your neck, leave those as well. And actually tomorrow, I'm going to ask you to leave those. Tomorrow, you'll be able to take your binders with you. We have tabs in the back so that when you attend standing committee meetings, you can just keep accumulating all your pages into that same binder. But I would like to keep the name tags so that, you know, this is a 4-year grant. So we don't want to lose those name tags. And I think, and is anybody going back to the hotel right now that can give my friend a ride back to the hotel? Anybody heading back there? Over there? Okay, got it here? All right, that's all. Thank you all.